Hi, welcome to Left Foot Media. My name is Brendan Malone, and today I've got a very special guest on the show, as much as it is a show. Ambrose Challies. Welcome aboard, Ambrose.
Hey, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, Ambrose, for those who are wondering why he's here and why he looks like he's in some sort of Persian rug market, that's because he's in a very echoey room. And so he had to put up some, do the best he could with the best available materials to sort of deaden the noise a bit. So it looks like a rug bazaar, but trust me, it's not. Ambrose is here because Ambrose is someone who specialises in animation. You've done, in fact, Ambrose, you tell us your background. You've studied film, is that right?
Yeah, so I studied at Media Design School. I did a Bachelor of Art and Design. And so they really focus on the film industry and kind of, developing that. And so my specialization in that was 3D animation. They work a lot with 3D. And so, there's three specializations you could have gone into, and it's TD, which is kind of the general technical, like 3D development, texturing, and lighting. Yeah. And then there's animation that works solely with animation, and then comping. So it's all the different processes of making a 3D film.
Now, tell me, we're going to talk about the reason Ambrose is on the show today is because we're going to talk a little bit about CG and CGI and what all the various differences are, the various technologies. We're going to talk about Infinity Wars in particular. But before we do that, dive headlong into all those technical aspects of filmmaking, Ambrose, you've got a short film that's in a film festival at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Film was a bobblehead, two bobbleheads, in fact, and it's a little love story between them that kind of goes, has its struggles and stuff like that. It's a very short thing, so it's something like 2 minutes long. It's a 3-month project in which we developed the idea, developed the screenplay and everything for that from the ground up. And so it was really, it was a great project to work on. We won an award at our own school with the best film of our intake. And then recently we've gone on to be competing in the Los Angeles Sign Fest, in which we are now finalists for. And I'm not 100% sure when the results come out for that, but we'll be looking out for that too. So.
Oh, that's awesome, mate. Well done. Yeah. So, I mean, you really are an expert. You're working in the field.
Straight out of uni expert. Let's go.
Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about Infinity Wars. That's really the reason we're here. What was your take on Infinity Wars and the CG that you saw in that movie?
For the most part, I thought it was pretty good. I've explained that I think the major downfalls that I saw in it was more to do with his henchmen. So Proxima Midnight is the female and Corvus Glaive being the male. I thought those two were done slightly less as effective, but I thought for the most part it was pretty good. There's little things in terms of animation that I've had a little problem with. The Infinity Stone, the way it sat in his hand, just felt off to me. I don't know, it didn't feel off to anyone else that I've talked to about it, so it may be just me. But in terms of, if you're holding something in your hand, it should usually roll down to the little crevice you have in the palm of your hand, where it usually was sitting just under his knuckles. Yeah. That just felt a little off for me, but that was I think that's the animator in me.
But that's amazing how you can see that, right? Those little things that you don't even know you are perceiving when you see in the real world someone holding an object in their hand, for example. The other thing is weight, right? There should be weight in something. You can, even if it's not heavy, you can still tell. Certain muscles are not contracting the way they should be, for example.
Yeah, and that's really what I think a lot of people have. I know we're not going into face animation, so we'll get into that later. But it's muscle, how the muscles interact with everything, and even to do with weight. The way the Tesseract broke up, that I think felt very simulated to me as well. How he crushes the glass and that kind of just fades away in his hand. It didn't feel like a glass or a nature of what I think that should have been. I thought that should have been glass or a similar feel to glass, but it just didn't quite feel like that to me.
I think one thing for me that stuck out, and I see this in my review, is I felt that the genocide at the end, the way the characters just disappear like leaves or ashes, I felt that I don't think that was the best choice. I mean, I'm not going to say I have an idea for how they could have made it better, but it just, to me, it did feel like a very basic level of effects for what they were trying to achieve there.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think about how I would have done it if I was doing the film. It's really hard to figure out what I would have done. Obviously, you have to kind of see it in the scenes as well to see if it would actually work. But I think for me, I think that effect was the bigger problem with it is that they were trying to the effect almost went too long, so that it felt like they were trying to get sadness out of the shot. Where I think for the most part, that entire scene was really based around shock. Like the way that people react to it, they're kind of reacting to like, this is the new reality of the world now. Like rather than, because there was, and I had a little fights with my brother, not big fights obviously, but little arguments with my brother about this. And he's like, why would Captain America not like rush to Bucky, you know, like it really influenced the sadness. And I was like, it wasn't the effect that they were going for. I felt they were going for more shock, but I think the way how slow it like fades out, I think that was, it kind of puts you in this weird middle stage where you kind of, am I like super shocked by this, or am I supposed to be sad?
Yeah, because so many of them disappeared too. And the thing for me was that I've said this in my review. I felt that undid things a little bit because Spider-Man's not gone. We know that. There's no way he's staying dead. Guardians of the Galaxy, there's no way most of them are staying dead. Most of them will be back. You know, and I think that undercut it a little bit. The other thing for me too, thinking about it later, was it particularly noticeable in the end credit scene, where you have Nick Fury seems to take a lot longer to be affected by this genocide. And it was like, why is there this big pause? Now, obviously, they're trying to fit it all in, but you do think to yourself, surely it would be instant. You know, even if it was like everyone would happen at the same time. You know?
Yeah. So there was like a bit of inconsistencies that way, but also like I think I was talking to my friend about this one too. Is like if they didn't kill off as many people or as many main characters, like I know they left the original Infinity War, like not Infinity War, the original Avengers like team together, but half of those we kind of almost like, I know a lot of people were speculating that would die. So I think if they went the other way around and almost they didn't kill as many of our heroes, but they killed some of the ones that we were expecting to die initially, I think that whole setup would have been a lot more, what is actually going to happen in the next film, rather than us all kind of expecting that the time's going to go back or everything's going to be reversed in some way, because we already know that there's a Spider-Man film planned. We've got more Doctor Strange film. Like, I don't think they fully confirmed anything, but they had, like, the rumors had basically already shouted out that there were going to be more of those films. So
and the thing I think too is, I think with a moment like this, where you have one or two characters who die, it does, like you say, it creates the mystery. What is going to happen? And it also creates a sense of danger that anybody could die. But what happened at the end of this film is that so many of them died, it's like, okay, well, we know they're not all going to stay dead, and that ruins the cliffhanger. Secondly, it actually undermines the danger as well, because now it's like, well, Thanos has killed half of the galaxy. He sat back down and he's sort of retired, right? He's done. And so the danger of, who could come next is sort of lost as well. So to me, it just, I don't know. I mean, look, I think, I guess they were trying to go for the maximum big sort of bonanza ending that they could, but I guess in the process, this was one of the side effects of that, was they were going to lose some of the benefits they wanted as well.
Yeah, no, but I think they could still have had their cake and eat it too, but I think they went a bit too overhand with it, and they're like, we can kill for this guy, and they were thinking too far, like too big, when I think if you had just done a slightly smaller, you would have actually had a better effect in the end, like people would have actually been questioning it. But as soon as you get out of that cinema, you're not questioning whether like Black Panther's going to come back or anything like that, because you almost assumed that they are. So it's kind of, then maybe they wanted us to try and think like theorycraft how they're going to come back, but I think it would have been more interesting to wonder if they're going to come back, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Or to have that sense of they're gone. Tell me, that Bruce Banner moment where Bruce Banner is standing in the open Hulkbuster armor at the end, am I right? I found that so jarring. It just did not look, the computer graphics there didn't look right. It either didn't look in proportion, it looked like a cut and paste. Just in that moment, I remember thinking,
I almost think that it didn't feel like there was enough things holding him up at the time in terms of like it did feel like he was more cut and pasted, but more I think when I was watching it was because there wasn't as much like support there for him in terms of he was just kind of weirdly in the suit. There wasn't really as much design put into how he was in that suit.
Let's talk about faces now, and let's start by talking about Thanos, because I think overall the face technology in this was pretty good. But as I said in my review, there were moments for me where it did feel a little bit uncanny and I did get drawn out of the film. You said not so much that effect, but there were more lighting issues for you in some places that were a bit more minor, but you noticed. But overall, I mean, they did a pretty good job. One thing I wished for, and I've said this previously, is I wish they'd actually thought years ago about the possibility of putting an actor into a prosthetic or a makeup or something that would have just been enhanced a little bit. But they went this way. What was your feeling about Thanos and the facial side of things in this film?
Yeah, so I think for the most part, I thought it was reasonably well done, and I think I was looking really closely at my second viewing of it for him, and I think I came to the conclusion that I thought that more than 70% were done what I would consider like pretty perfectly, and for the major scenes, I think they got it like 90% of those. I think they got right, and so for even the ones that they got wrong, in my opinion, I think they moved enough of the face for it to feel real. I know that you didn't have this feeling, but when I was watching it, I never really got drawn out, in my opinion, for it. And I feel like I'm quite a critic on that front because I'm an animator, and so I really get to see the small details, and that's something that I look at closely without trying to. You know, when you've done something long enough, you kind of just are drawn to that aspect of it. So one of the things that I do think they did reasonably well, though, is when they didn't do it right, is it's still like one thing that we have problems. And I was looking at Tron recently and stuff like that, because you sent me through a couple of those films to look, not the films, but to compare it to. And yeah, you can definitely tell, like the way the mouth just feels like it's on a completely different planet to the face. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have when they're doing that, is that they don't move enough of the face. So when you're like, just say you're talking, you're actually pulling skin from a lot of different areas, and your skin will interact with different areas. And if you turn on like one muscle, you may be pulling on another muscle around your face. And so a lot of like the micro details in the face are still connected to a lot of the talking elements of it. And I think even if they got that wrong, they really got small emotions in his face enough real to not make it feel like the mouth was on its own planet. And so it kind of brought to life his face a little more, even if the lip sync was slightly off in terms of the action. The
other thing I thought too was, overall, there are some issues, but overall they used lighting very cleverly to sort of perhaps hide some of those things, which is why it felt better than other films, I suspect. Yeah,
and I think they could have possibly done it with the prosthetics as well, because if you look at Nebula's full, like, I looked at the way that they created her the other day, and she's like full prosthetics. Yeah. Like, her entire makeup, they're putting on these plates on, not like metal plates, but like they're developing the plates on her and stuff like that. So she's fully prosthetic up. And so I feel like if they wanted to, they could probably have done the same thing. I think they were just confident in their 3D ability for this film.
It's amazing when you think about face technology, because like if you make that contrast and say Tron Legacy, which had quite a big reliance on it, Rogue One, we had two important, Grand Moff Tarkin and Princess Leia, two important faces. And then, of course, now with Thanos, it does seem like that technology has come on. Is it come on leaps and bounds, or is it simply that more care and time and, I guess, money was put into Thanos' face than perhaps the previous? What is the difference?
I think the technology's come further, but I also think like the longer they're working with these projects, because the CG community isn't huge. Like, definitely it is reasonably large that you won't have the same people working on every same film. But you will have similar people working on similar films as they contract to different jobs. The industry is very contract focused. You work on a film, then you move to a different film to work on a different film as you get the contract. So a lot of these artists will be hitting across, and they'll be learning stuff and then contributing that to the new film and stuff like that. And like for the Star Wars, the new Star Wars one, he looked very uncanny to me.
Yeah.
His animation was a bit off, but also just the way they put him in the scene, he looks very plastic, and I think that's part of it as well. I think it's the whole package to make them feel like they're there and not CG. For Tron, obviously the animation's really off on that one.
Yeah.
But I think even they did a slightly better job of making sure the lighting's accurate, making him in the actual scene and making him feel there. But I think we're just getting better at doing everything that requires to making them look in the scene.
It's funny because, like, initially, if you look at some of those initial usages of Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, the camera, they have him facing away from the camera, and they do very clever things initially, and then all of a sudden, it's really, it comes undone a bit when they turn and there he is full face, and the lighting's not quite right, the muscles are not quite right. You say, the sort of plastic nature of what he is, the animated. To me, it felt like Tintin. It felt like he was out of the Tintin film, actually, at times. Which was pretty amazing for what it was, but that was an animated cartoon come to life,
For that to work in that film, he has to be real. Like, he has to be a real person. He can't look CG at all. Like, they tried to bring back someone to make them look like a person in the film. He's not supposed to look CG in any way, shape, or form.
No, and it's interesting when you look at, say, Gladiator. The movie Gladiator by Ridley Scott, they had an issue with one of their actors, Proximo was the name of the character, I think, from memory. He died before they'd finished the film, but they needed an extra scene with him, so they went back and they cut up some bits of footage they'd filmed of him from other stuff and then put it into a different location, added a bit of lighting, and you don't know unless someone tells you. Now you see it every time you see the film. But it's interesting, that was what they had to rely on previously. It's pretty amazing what we can do now, right?
Yeah. I mean, the technology has progressed in the Fast and Furious series. Obviously, the main guy died for that, and so they used his brother for a lot of the shots to get the general, because similar makeups, like similar builds, similar hairstyles and stuff like that. So for the most part, they're using him as like a stand-in for like really finishing that film on a note that can send him off on a really nice like a tribute-y way. So there's no right way to do that. It's kind of using your creativity in terms of finding a creative solution to the problem that has kind of come up, and so that's when you get Gladiator. Even though it's not with the technology of our time, I think it's so good because you can't tell.
Yeah,
I think that's what we're getting to, is like you need to find a solution where people can't tell.
What else do you think lies in store for the future of CG? Where are we going? Have we reached our peak CG, or is there more still to come?
It's hard to say. With especially new technologies, they'll come out and they'll seem so obvious once you've already seen them, but then when you're trying to think of them, like, it won't come obvious to you. But one thought of the thing that I actually was looking at SIGGRAPH today, it's a technology expo basically that happens, and someone was looking at making 3D real time in a VR type of experience. So you're kind of like walking around and it can see the things around you, develop its texture, develop its 3D model in that time, and so you can see it visually. And I think that could be interesting if it's paired with like VR and motion capture to allow the actors to be in their scene. So like give them a rough like previs version of the scene so they can see kind of what their atmosphere, what they're trying to act to, because I think that's a lot of problem that people have with motion capture, is they have to use their imagination so much. It would also help to see what type of scenes they're in and really kind of make that imagination come to life for them. Also, I put in my notes here, we'd wait for James Cameron. So I feel like he always tries to go above and beyond in his films. You can see in Avatar, he's really trying to break the boundaries on what's possible and stuff like that. So that's a dude that you can always count on will try and do something incredible with his film. If
you're going to talk about advances in technology, you can't not talk about the new Planet of the Apes trilogy. I mean, how good is Andy Serkis, for starters, but also that what they did with motion capture and those apes, man, that was, because not only they look realistic, but they look human, and that's no easy feat, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, one, they did really have upgraded the motion capture to make it look very, and this is a testament to the rigs as well, because it's all got to go back to a CG element and where they're building the rigs. And so I think they're realizing that the rigs are quite a big asset to it. They've always been quite a big asset, but making retarded amounts of blend shapes, which are the shapes that move the character. And so I only know this for the Thanos one, but originally when they were showing a rig of Thanos thing, they were saying that they had over like 20,000 different shapes for his face, which is a lot of different things that they're modeling out just to like move around. But you can see on something like that, one, they built the character to kind of look like Andy. The way the face deforms is similar to his own, but what they're realizing is how they can integrate it better into CG to make it look realistic and bring all those elements together. So that's like the complexity of the motion capture, the complexity of the rig, and then the complexity of the comp that's bringing it all together to make it look like it's in the scene.
And of course, the other possibility is we experience some sort of big backlash, some sort of hipster backlash where everyone says, no, let's rebel against CG and we'll only use actors and no special effects, and anything's got to be done in camera and on set. But
yeah, you're always going to get those people.
The purists.
Yeah.
Ambrose, thanks for being here with us today. Before we go, plug your movie again.
So it's Spring Fling. It's not public just yet as we're still entering competitions. We're going to see what we can get, but hopefully it will be public soon. And I'll have a link for that somewhere. I'll find it. But yeah, basically Spring Fling. It's short animation, 2 minutes long. Should be out soon.
Ambrose, again, thank you. Hopefully we can get you back. I'd love to, as new movies and James Cameron's got some stuff coming soon. We might be chatting again. And so it's always good to have you on. Everyone else, thanks for watching. If you like the content I'm creating and you'd like to see more of it, then please support me on Patreon. There's a link in the description below and a link on screen at the end. And don't forget, if you're not already a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, I'll see you next time on Left Foot Media. Thanks for watching.